I did 41 years in a New York State prison, and I know what it's like in New York State. So I want this voice, and along with this voice comes a responsibility to be completely transparent and honest. So I'm not going to hedge. I'm not going to fudge. If I offend you, fuck you, leave the room. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back to our podcast. Thank you for showing up. This is episode
Number 6.
Hope you've enjoyed episode 1 through 5, and hope you'll enjoy this one too. So sit back. Let's do this.
Do you know what we're talking about?
No.
We're going to talk about visits.
Okay.
If this is your first time tuning in with us, this is a podcast where we talk about
what it's really like to do time in New York State prison. I did 41 years for conviction of 2 counts of murder in the 2nd degree, and I'm recently released.
Did you get a lot of visits when you were on the inside?
I didn't get a lot in the later times. I got a lot in the early years because, that's what you do. You want to get visits. But as you get more and more time in, it's one of those things that you don't want. Visits become a chore.
How so?
Well, you got to get strip frisked after every visit. That's the biggest problem. You got some cop looking up your asshole, twisting your ears to focus, right? So it's just a chore. You get sick of people abusing you sexually like that.
You have to bend over and spread your cheeks?
Yeah, pick up your nuts and your dick and the whole fucking thing. Then inevitably they make you spread your cheeks and your genitalia before they make you pull your lips away from your teeth so they can look under your tongue. So you're touching, you've been sitting all day in a sweaty fucking chair, and then you're touching your asshole and then touching your lips, you know what I mean? So it's just degrading and stupid.
Because they think you might have smuggled something in?
And how are they going to know? If you got something shoved up your ass, are they going to be able to see it with your starfish Sam clothes? How the fuck are they going to see it?
Starfish.
Starfish, yeah, your asshole. How are they going to see it, right?
Wow. So every time you part from your loved one, you have to get naked in a room and go through that?
Every single time. And it just, and there comes a point when it's just, you just say, fuck that, I'm not doing it, don't come see me.
And when you have a visit with somebody when you're in the max facilities, is somebody sitting there watching you?
Yeah, there's cops strategically placed within the visiting room so that they can see the whole room. They sit on these raised chairs. They built like lifeguard seats like you would see at the beach, but not quite that tall, so they can see everyone.
Do they bark out at you if you're touching your guest for too long or something? Or
yeah, they'll come over to your table usually. They won't just holler out at you or something, but they'll come over to your table and say something to you, tell you to knock it off, or they'll cancel your visit and send your visit out.
Did that ever happen to you?
They've never canceled a visit on me. No, they've come over and told me that I'm touching too much or kissing too much, but I don't pay them any mind. Fuck them.
So you had girlfriends that would come and visit you?
I guess we're gonna have to get into this, right? Yes and no, right? Girlfriends. I mean, their gender was girl, and they were friendly. So yeah, girlfriends in that sense. Not emotional attachment kind of thing, Look, man, I was doing a double life sentence, right? I didn't have the social decorum that, you want to assign to me in those days, right? I was out for me, 1000% me. So if some girl wanted to come visit me and bring me packages or bring me drugs, I'd sit there on the visit and kiss her and tell her I love her all day long. None of that was true. But I did it, I say I did it to survive, but that's bullshit. I did it to get high and to live well, because I could have survived without any money, but I did it to live well.
So you used people?
Yes. And, I think it was a two-way street, too. I mean, I think I was being used just as well, why do girls go into prison? Why do single females seek men behind bars?
That is, yeah. That's
right?
A question that what you tell me. What is your opinion on that?
My opinion is it's a safe relationship. They have a captive audience, right? So if they can get a hold of some dude that's doing time, he ain't running around fucking around on them. He's not coming home because he can't come home, but she knows where he's at, and it's a safe relationship, right? She's in total, complete, 100% control of the relationship. A safe haven for her. I think that's why women do that. I don't know.
But some guys could be having visits and corresponding with a number of women, right? So it's not safe because they could be having 12 relationships at once, right?
I did that, yeah. I mean, most guys who are hustling do that. I mean, so I had this typewriter. It had a memory, and I would write a letter that was a generic letter, to I might have 7 or 12 girls that I was writing, women, and I'd write them all the same letter. So let's say I had one named Patty. I'd start the letter, "Dear Patty," write the letter, print that letter out, go back into the memory, change the top name to, say, Brenda, "Dear Brenda," print the letter out, send it to Brenda. So I would print them all the same letter, and the only thing I would change is if they asked me specific questions, I'd have a notebook and I'd make a note. If they talked about their cat, I'd add something into their letter about the cat. But they get the basic same letter from me saying that I was doing the same things. So when I wrote the next letter, I had a copy of the letter that I just sent, so I knew what I'd already said, and I would do that. I would hustle, 7, 8, 10, 12, sometimes 15 of them at the same time. If you had 2 women that wanted to show up on the same day, you had to cancel one of them. Now, in the early days when I first started the bit, you only got 1 phone call a month for 10 minutes. That's all you got. So you couldn't call. So you had to figure out some way to cancel one of these visits. You couldn't allow them to both show up, One way that I used to do it is I used to have COs that I used to hustle with. And I would go see one of the COs that I hustled with, and I would pay him something or something. We had a hustle going. I'd do something, for him. Mm-hmm. And he'd do this for me. He'd go home that night and he'd make this phone call. And he'd say, "Listen, your man asked me to call you and tell you that he's got this thing going on. He's got some problems going on. So he said you'd understand. You can't show up Wednesday, but it's okay if you want to show up Thursday, Friday, or any other day. But Wednesday he's got something going on that he can't get out of. He asked me to call and tell you." And inevitably she would be happy that she got the phone call. "Oh my God, he went out of his way to get this phone call to me. That's so awesome." And then she'd show up the following day and you're good to go. You see what I mean? So you had to juggle chicks just like you would juggle packs of cigarettes.
You never developed actual feelings for someone?
You're not liking this shit at all. Go ahead, say it again.
No, I don't like it.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
You would never develop real feelings for anyone, or you wouldn't allow yourself to, or you didn't have the capacity to, or what?
I don't think I had the capacity to be truthful. I grew up in a very violent family. I had a very violent childhood. Before our friendship, before I knew what a real friendship was, I didn't have the capacity to love. I didn't know what love was. Like, I love you, you're my best friend, you love me, and that's the love that we have as friends, right? And I never had that with anyone in my whole life before you taught me to do that. Lust, man, I had a ton of that. Instant gratification, I was all about that. I mean, I went to prison, I was just a kid. I was 19 and like 20 days old or something like that. I'd been abused my whole life as a child. I didn't have the capacity for many, many years, well into my 30s, to genuinely care for someone. Love? No. Care? Yes. So there was other friends of mine who I respected or genuinely cared for enough, maybe borderline loved, right? But I never loved anyone until you taught me what it is to be unselfish and to give of yourself because you love someone. So it didn't bother me that I was juggling these girls, and it didn't bother me that they worked all week and they would go home and spend $100 to bring me a package, plus the gas money, plus the day they spent with me. It didn't bother me that I was using those things and not giving anything back in return.
Did you think about it, though?
I didn't. At the time, I didn't. I think about it now.
You didn't give... Obviously, they felt special or something, but...
Sure, I made them feel special. I made them feel loved. I was their man. They could come see me. I mean, they were making dreams and plans about when I would get out, and we would be married, and we would travel, and I would parole to them, and Sure, they were making the plans, and all of that.
So I guess that's what you gave in return. You gave a dream.
I think so. I think I gave what they were looking for, right? Because they came looking for that. And make no mistake, they all knew that I was doing a life sentence. There's no, I'm getting out in a year or two, and we'll do this, knowing that I had a 50-year sentence, So, I guess I gave them what they were looking for. I guess.
Tell us who Pam is.
Who is Pam? Exactly. So Pam, I won't use her last name. Okay. So Pam, she was the girlfriend of a friend of mine, Patty. She watched me play guitar at a few family events. She came up to like 2 or 3 family events, and I played guitar. She hung out with me, and she hung out with him, and because we were friends, right? So she liked me. She had a crush on me. It didn't work out for them. They didn't stay together but a couple of months. And then this guy, Frankie Football, he comes out to the yard to me one day, and he goes, "Hey, you remember Pam?" I go, yeah, that's Patty's old lady. He goes, "Yeah, well, she just, she doesn't know your name and number. She doesn't know your number, how to get a contact with you, but she knows mine. So she just sent me this letter for you." And he hands me a letter. And in the letter, she's explaining that she likes me and she would really like for me to call her, if I'm interested. And, well, fuck, who wouldn't be interested? I'm doing a double life sentence, right? So I called her, and we talked on the phone. And she came and visited that weekend. And then from that weekend forward, for the next 7 years, she was there almost every weekend to visit for the next 7 years, yeah. So we were a couple for 7 years.
Wow.
I was not into her. I'm sorry.
You were using her?
I think we were using each other. But I mean, I was kind, and I was always in the relationship. You know what I mean? I wasn't fudging the relationship in the sense that, oh man, I gotta go see this broad again this weekend. It wasn't like that at all. I would write her at night, and I would call her, and I would genuinely have fun with her on the visits, and I would bring her up to family picnics, and we would make out and that kind of stuff, and
You'd get to make out at the family visit picnics?
Yeah. The CEOs kind of give you room there because it's your family. They know who's there. They have a list of who you're with, your wife, your girlfriend. And so they're not going to let you take your clothes off and have sex and all that. But, if you want to hug and you want to hold on to each other and kiss here and there, they're not going to bother you, because first of all, the lifers aren't going to tolerate it, because when you get back inside, you got to see me inside. So why did you embarrass me in front of my wife? You're not hurting anybody by holding on to your wife all day. It's the only time you get to do. You get to do it 4 times a year.
Yeah.
You're not hurting anybody.
Do you guys get to touch and hold hands and kiss and stuff in the regular visitors room?
You can hold hands. You can touch. Pre-COVID, you could, but you couldn't kiss too much. Like the rule is, you kiss once when you get there and you kiss once when you leave. But you would kiss throughout the day. If you were there all day, you might kiss 15, 20 times, right? But you would be making out, right?
Yeah, the only time I actually went into a visitor's room without having an immediate appointment was at Sing Sing, and they just kept shouting, like, "No hand, no touching," It was so fucking aggressive and terrible. I just figured that's what it was like all the time. That was pre-COVID.
Yeah, it is in most places like that, and it depends on the CEOs who get in the visiting room. Now, a lot of time when you get those CEOs in the visiting room and stuff, guys will get their wives to file charges against them to get them out of there. And then you tell them, you pull them on the side. They'll come to you and say, "Hey man, your wife filed charges against me. Hey, you shouldn't have touched her ass." You fucking know I never did that. What I know and what she knows are 2 different things. But I'll tell you what, you want the charges to go away? Get a new job, asshole.
That's dirty.
So are they. Goes around, comes around.
Oh my God.
Make no mistake.
Wow.
They are filthy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pam, go back to that lady.
I was friends with a lot of Hell's Angels. As running the cruise, there were angels in the cruise. And I was friends with a few of them. And Pam, so she met all the angels and they would come over to her house and party because she was a party chick, right? So they would just show up and party at her house. So some of them knew me and got out. So what she did is she put a Lazy Susan. You know what a Lazy Susan is?
That rotating circular thing?
Okay. Like a punch bowl, right? But only it turns. So, all right, so she put one of those on the table, And she told everyone it was for me. Said, so whatever you throw in there, I'm going to take to the boss. So they would just reach in their pockets, and whatever they had left over at the end of the night, they'd just throw in that bowl. Drugs, money. She would take all the stuff out, and she would tell me what's in the bowl, and I would tell her what to bring me. And the rest of it, she would either get rid of or do herself, So she would balloon up all the stuff that I told her to bring to me. She would bring me the stuff on the visit in the balloon, and I would smuggle it in. And then
in her lady parts? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sometimes she would bring it in her lady parts, sometimes in her bra, right? So what she would do is, let's say the visit ends at 3 o'clock. So at about 2 o'clock, she would start removing it from wherever she had it on the visit table. I wouldn't let her get up. Don't go to the bathroom. That's a tell. Don't do it. Because you watch girls get up and go to the bathroom at 2:30, and come right back to the table. Duh. I'd get a bag of chips. And I just leave we get the bag of chips when we get there early, and I just leave the bag of chips on the table. And then I would open the bag of chips and eat a couple, and give her a couple. She'd eat a couple, it's like 2:30, right? And she would drop these balloons into the bag. As she reached in to get a potato chip, she would drop the balloons. She'd take a couple of chips, hand me back the bag. I'd take a couple of chips, put the bag on the table, let the bag cool off a minute. And then I'd start reaching in like I was getting chips, and I'd be getting these balloons, and I'd be swallowing these balloons. So I'd swallow the balloons with all the drugs in them, and then I would go right back to my cell and purge. And then all those balloons I would take and wash them off, rinse them off, open the balloons, get rid of the balloons. Because if the cops kick my door open and bust me, I don't want them in balloons. If they're not in balloons, they can't say she brought them to me. So the first thing I would do is take them all out of the balloons, brush my teeth, and then start breaking it up into what I was going to do with it.
Wow. Holy crap, man. Who are you? Jesus. How many guys do you think were doing the same thing? What percentage of guys on the inside who are lifers, or not lifers, just anyone on the inside, is hustling women like this? Your face. I can tell you're torn between wanting to reveal the truth and not wanting to call out your brothers on the inside.
Okay, that's you're right. You're wrong, and you're right. You're right that I don't want to reveal it, but I don't like that you said reveal the truth, because I want to make it plain that I'm never going to lie on this podcast. So if I say anything at all, it's going to be the truth.
Can I rephrase the question?
Sure.
So chances are, if you're a girl with a relationship with a guy on the inside, with a guy that you've never actually been with, a guy that you met while he was on the inside, chances are probably pretty good that you're being used.
Chances are really good that you're being used, especially if you sought him out, especially if you did the initiating. So the chance, if you initiated the contact, another facet of that is if you knew him on the street, but he wasn't interested in you then, like he is interested in you now, you're being used.
Did you get letters from people? From random people? From girls? Or are you talking girls you met in person, right?
I met some of them in person through visits and family reunions. I always played in the band. I always ran a band, and I always sang and played guitar. So I met a lot of girls that way, inside.
Because they would come to visit other people?
Or they'd be other guys' sisters or cousins or something that would show up, yeah. And sometimes to visit other guys, and I would pull them from other guys.
Pull them? That's the term?
That's the term, pull them, yeah. So, yeah, that's the term. So it's like fishing, right? You pull them from the water, right? You pull them from the school. So, yeah. So back in the day, there was this magazine, it was called Country Music Magazine, right? And it had a section for pen pals. And there were always girls in there looking for pen pals, looking for, whatever, single white female, single black female, looking for a single white male, single black male, and all that. So
in Country Music Magazine?
Country Music.
Like country music from the South?
Yeah, country, County.
Yeah, not from this country. It's actually country music.
Like country music, yeah,
okay.
Like y'all and twang and all that, banjos and stuff. Yeah, right. So it's a Country Music Magazine.
Okay, just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, Better Homes and Gardens had the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so I would get that magazine. I had a subscription to that magazine, and I would get a magazine like every 2 weeks.
For that purpose? Because you didn't like... Or were you into country music? I don't know.
No, not really. No.
It was for the personal ads.
But sometimes you had to be into country music because this is the magazine that they're coming out of. So I'd read the magazine to know what was current, you know. I'd say, hey, you know, I was reading the Garth Brooks, you know, thing, and I seen your ad, and I decided to, you know, oh my God, you're right back. I love Garth Brooks. I'm such a fan, you know, and so that's how it would start, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would use those magazines, yeah.
Is it also just out of boredom sometimes, or was it really because you were pulling with a view to getting that person to send you stuff?
Well, prison's a lot of things, P, but it's never boring. It's
a distraction.
It's monotonous, but it's not boring.
So could we call it a distraction?
Is that why I did it, for a distraction?
Or was it always with a motive to get this person to send you stuff?
It's always with the motive to get visits, packages, and trailer visits.
Okay.
Always, that's the motive.
Tell me about trailer visits. What is that?
Well, it's a different kind of visit, right? So it's called congenial visits, right? So you go in there for 3 days.
Isn't it conjugal visit?
Yeah, I just call it congenial because you'd be nice, right? So it is conjugal, yes. So you go in there and...
Yeah, because you didn't know you'd have to conjugate.
Yeah, you know how to conjugate verbs. Right. I think it's a verb, right? I don't know. So you would go in there for 2 nights and 3 days, and you know you'd fuck like bunny rabbits and eat real food, and then away you would go until the next one, you know. So
what, you're suggesting that you could just do that with anyone you wanted?
No, you had to. No, you had to.
You're going down a different path right now that maybe you don't want to go. There's that face again. I want to tell the story about someone that I know that was in a visitor's room visiting her husband with her 2 kids.
Right.
It was Sing Sing. And in the visitor's room, the kids were, one was 2, the other was 8.
Okay.
And in the visitor's room, an inmate attacked another inmate's mother and slit her throat open with a shank made out of a pen.
Right.
And so this woman gave up. She gave up on her relationship, said, I cannot take my kids ever. Like, it was so traumatizing, right? So she just stopped visiting him and divorced him, and like it ended everything. That stuff happens in visiting rooms, right?
Very rarely.
Oh.
Very, very rarely that something like that happens.
Have you ever seen any drama in a visitor's room?
I've seen drama in the visiting room, right? But I've never seen anyone get cut / stabbed. It doesn't happen in the visiting room for a couple of reasons. Number one is if you do something in the visiting room, it ain't just the COs who's going to whoop your ass. That's people's families in there. That's sanctuary. You do not fuck around in the visiting room.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very, very rare that you see that. And for that guy to have attacked another inmate's mother, you can guarantee he didn't attack her because she was his mother. He attacked her because she did something to him.
No.
Yes, probably she did something to him on the street.
Wow.
Probably from the same projects or the same borough or someplace like that, and she did something to him or his family.
I understood that it was some shit that was going on the inside that wasn't resolved, and they took it to the next level by attacking the guy's family.
That's not the next level, and they would not attack the guy's family. It wouldn't be, no, that would not be sanctioned.
But you see gang stuff on the streets. This is a new generation where they, like, when there are gang fights on the street, they'll attack your family members.
Yeah. Not in prison. Not in the visiting room.
Wow.
That is sanctuary. You are not. That is a safe haven. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't care what your beef is.
Yeah.
No.
That makes sense.
Whenever I pulled a guy's girl inside, I knew it was always going to be a problem. So I would go to the guy whose girl I had pulled, and I would tell him, listen, we were on the visit, or I was out on the thing, and your girl came over to me, and your girl blah, 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 and I gave her my number. Just so you know. So, do what you want to do to her, about her, or whatever. But just so you know, she's coming to visit me, she's coming to write me, so there ain't no secrets.
And the number you gave her was your DOC DIN number?
Yes, so that she could come visit. She ain't your girl anymore.
Take it in blood, motherfucker.
Well, I mean, that's what you would do, And I mean, because you can't be walking around wondering, is this guy going to find out she's visiting me?
Yeah.
It's better to just go straight to his face and tell him point blank, listen, she asked for my number, I gave it to her.
Yeah. So these conjugal visits.
Congenial visits. Yeah. Okay, conjugal visits. What about them? You're not going to leave it alone, so let's go. Wind it up.
How were they able to have a trailer visit with you? And
trailer with visits? Me. So it's going to be me. Okay, so
yeah. When you're not,
So you have to be married to have your wife come up. It can't be a common law wife. You have to actually be married. Any immediate family can come on a visit. Your son, your daughter. Okay.
How many people at once?
There's not really a limit. I mean, I've seen some people bring 6 and 7. They might have 5 kids, 6 kids, and they'll all come up with the wife.
And you stay in a trailer home?
In Auburn, it was trailer homes. In other places, it was prefabbed homes that they built on site. But they were nice places. They were like a motel room, or a little apartment, because they had full kitchens, full bathrooms, living rooms. There was a separate fund for that. So that's who you could get to visit. So that's how you did it. You're not going to leave it at that, are you?
Skirted the fucking...
Not really. Okay, so how did... The question is...
you are not married. How did you do it?
I was married on the street before I went to prison. So, yeah, I was married.
No, you weren't. Technically, you were.
Well, I was married, before I got there. I mean, I was divorced by the time I got there, but I was married before I got there.
Okay, so what you're saying is you had a certificate?
I had a certificate and a marriage license. Yeah, and I had my ex-wife's driver's license.
Why?
I don't know how I ended up with her driver's license.
How were you able to keep it even?
Well, I wasn't able to keep it, but I was able to get access to it. Now, my marriage license and my certificate, I had. So when you transfer from jail to jail, there's a packet that goes to the clerk. It could be your driver's license, whatever you got arrested with in your wallet. It could be your wallet, your watch. Whatever you got arrested with that you couldn't have, you have the opportunity to either send home if you have a home, or it goes into this envelope and it travels with you your whole bed wherever you go. And then when you get out, the day you get out, you get that back. So in that packet was my marriage certificate, my marriage license, and this ID card.
God, you didn't know how valuable that would be, right?
Didn't have any idea.
Do you have it still? Did you get that when you got out?
No. So let me finish.
Okay.
So I didn't know how valuable it would be, obviously. When they transferred me one time, they mistakenly gave me that envelope. That envelope was supposed to go to the clerk. I'm never supposed to see that envelope until I'm out. So they gave me that envelope, and in that envelope was my wallet, my watch, and these documents. I just took those documents and stashed them. A year or two later, I had this steady girl coming up to visit, and she wanted to do trailers. And she said, isn't there any way we can do trailers? And I got, I don't know, let me think about it. Let me figure out what it is. So I started researching the directives. So if your wife wants to come up to visit you, what does she have to bring? What does she have to show? And they started telling me what was necessary. Marriage license or marriage certificate and picture ID. Bingo! That's simple shit. I got 2 of those already. I have her ID. All I have to do is change the picture. So I had her go out to one of those little booths where you take the pictures and put a magnifying glass in front of the camera lens, but turn it around so it made it smaller and take a picture. So we did that a few times until I got a picture that I was happy with, because back in those days, you could blow up a picture or shrink it, but you couldn't do it without going to a Photoshop or something. And most of them wouldn't do it for you the right size because they figured you were faking passports or something. So it was kind of iffy,
Yeah.
So anyway, we got it done. And she got a picture that I liked and smuggled it into the visiting room. I took it back to my cell with a razor blade. I took my razor apart, cut my ex-wife's picture out of it, put her picture in there perfectly, sent it back out, had her go down to the Xerox machine. That's what they were in the days, Xerox, right? Copy it in color and put the documents together and send it in. And then on the day that she showed up to do the interview for the trailer visit, right, she just mistakenly left her purse in the car, but she had her documents. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's fine. We don't need to see your ID if you have a picture of it. And that's how I did it. So.
And you did that with different women?
I did that probably, 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I helped a couple of other guys get girls in as their sisters.
And it's a whole weekend?
Yeah, well, so let's say you go out on a Friday night, right? So you got half a day Friday night, all day Saturday night, all day Sunday, and you leave Sunday afternoon. So it's 3 days, 2 nights.
So you can have a conjugal visit just with your brother? I mean,
Could.
you can have a trailer visit.
Weird.
You can have a trailer visit with just your mother, or she can just come and cook for you for the whole weekend, or.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, is it hard to get trailer visits?
No, not really.
Do all facilities have the option to do that?
No. There's only a handful of facilities that have the trailer.
You just have to be lucky enough to be in one of them at the time?
Yeah.
I heard that some guys were able to work it out so that they could be with a sex worker for the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. You would do it the same way, you would do it the same way. I mean, when I was in one facility, I'm not going to say the facility because it still goes on, the officer who was in charge of the trailer visits had a system whereby he would allow you to bring in sex workers as long as they were sex workers that he was familiar with. Obviously, he was taking a kickback, but he would allow it.
He was a pimp then, basically, right?
Yeah.
You're saying?
Sure.
Wow, and he would work out the paperwork that he would he have to put fake documents on file that this person was married to so-and-so?
Yeah, that's what he would do. He'd hook it up for you. You would pay whatever it was going to cost you, and you'd pick the one that you wanted, and he would schedule it, do all the paperwork, and when your time came around, you'd get a trailer visit. She'd come in with food, just like she was your wife, because you have to cook for yourself. You got to bring your own food. You have to cook yourself on those 3 days.
That's a good business, first of all. I mean, that's
lucrative,
and also he's doing good work, I think, because people need human touch, right?
Definitely. I think so. I mean, I don't have any problem with it whatsoever.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's do status update.
We're going to talk tonight a little bit about mental health, because that's something that I'm struggling with right now. I've talked to many guys who did a lot of time, and they're all struggling with the same thing. And some of them have been out 10, 12 years, and they're still suffering with the PTSD and the trauma that they brought out because they never went and got to talk to anybody to see about getting any help for it, So let's talk about what's going on with me. I can say what's going on with me. I can only surmise what's going on with my friends, but with me, I know absolutely. So let's talk about that. I've had some meltdowns, man. I've had some problems. So my friends, they reached out to some mental health counselors who deal with the kind of things that I've been going through, and they arranged to have me committed. No, not committed.
You wish.
So they arranged to get me some help. So today I had my initial intake with a psychologist, and it was very disturbing because I had to talk about all of the things in my life that led me to all of the other things in my life. What you discover as you do this is that these things are chained together. So it was kind of a regression kind of a thing. The psychologist took me back to my earliest childhood memories of abuse, and it's dark. So I don't really know how to start this, where to go, but I want to say this about it. I always wanted this voice. I wanted to be able to come out here and to educate people and to tell people what it really is like to do time in a New York State prison. And along with this voice comes a responsibility to be completely transparent and honest. So I'm not going to hedge. I'm not going to fudge. If I offend you, fuck you, leave the room. So when I was a little boy, at the age of about 8 years old, the kid from across the street snatched me up and put me in a shed, tied me up in a shed and sexually abused me. And he did that to me probably 100, 150 times. So those things were chained together in my mind that there was something wrong with me because this was happening to me, and I couldn't say anything about it. I couldn't tell anybody that it was happening to me. I couldn't defend myself as a third grader, right? So all of these things go on in life and change together, and they mold us into the personality that we're going to become as adults. For me, they molded me into an alcoholic and a drug addict. That was my escape, alcohol and drugs. So by the time I was 14, I was a full-blown alcoholic. By the time I got my first driver's license, I was already a full-blown heroin addict. The abuse stopped from the guy across the street when we moved to a different neighborhood, and that was probably 5 years later. So he probably abused me for 5 years. I've never, ever said this before to anyone until today. I've never told this story. I've never told anyone that I was sexually molested as a child. This is the first time I'm talking about this, is today. But it's important because it led to the things that led me to prison. I was never a natural criminal. I never got a thrill out of victimizing people. It's oftentimes, like, I know guys who victimize people, and they victimize people because they were victimized themselves and they feel like they're getting even. My mindset has never been that. I've always been, I don't fuck with you until you fuck with me, and then I fuck with you 1,000%. And that's always been the way that I am. Once I came into, I guess the word is, once I came into being who I was going to be, you know, because as a child being abused all that time, you know, I didn't do anything about it. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't do anything about it. As I talk about it, these things are in my mind, you know, those pictures. I can see the guy pulling his pants down and pulling his dick out and getting ready to fuck me in my ass as a little boy. I can see that. Those pictures never go away. They're never going to go away. It's like a fucking horror film that plays in my mind, and that shit's never gonna go away.
When you were using, were you anesthetized from these thoughts, or?
Yeah, I could. That was my escape, right? I would get just passed out, you know, drunk, just get so high that I didn't even know my own name, and if I didn't know who I was, then I didn't know anything about myself, right? All that stuff went away, and that was my escape. That's how I got rid of it. That's how I got away from it. I stopped using drugs and alcohol in 2001. So those pictures have been back with me since 2001. I just been living with them, and I thought I had them under control. I thought, you know what, this is just a part of my life. It's just a thing, you know. Just dismiss it. Don't worry about it. Move forward. Nobody knows it but you and the people that did it, and they're not going to say anything because they did it. So just, you know, and that's how I rationalized it, and that's how I was able to compartmentalize it and move forward. But it was a lie. I was never able to compartmentalize it and shut it off, because at the oddest moments it would just come up and it would happen, you know. And it does weird things to me. I'll tell you one thing that it does to me that baffles me, and I don't understand why it does this. I spoke to the psychologist about this today. If I'm watching television, and this is bizarre, this is a direct chain to this. Any kind of emotion, anything. I can watch a television commercial, and if it catches me, if it makes me emotional, I cry, and it's not a happy cry. It's super fucking depressing. I think it's jealousy. It's like this black cloud that just comes up from inside of me, and all of these horrible, terrible things that have been done to me over the years just keep playing on a reel in my head. And I don't know if I'm crying out of jealousy or if I'm crying out of the pain that's in my heart. Anything that touches me, it could be a car commercial. And if it touches me in that way, the cloud comes. The cloud is there. And with the cloud comes the guy across the street. And those things just lead me down a deep, dark path. And what comes after that, right? So, self-doubt. Now, it doesn't matter what I've accomplished. It doesn't matter how much money is in my pocket. It doesn't matter what I've done. It doesn't matter. I'm not worth shit. I'm not worth the emotion. I'm not worth the smile and the happy times. And that's the cloud. And it's mental illness, right? Let's call it what it is. It's mental illness. So I am trying to figure out what it is and how to get rid of it. The psychologist today said it's post-traumatic stress disorder. She's talking about my childhood, my father, my mother, my sister, the guy across the street. By the time I was probably 13, there wasn't a machine that I couldn't take apart and put back together. I mean, I was doing automatic transmission rebuilds by the time I was 14 years old for money for drugs, you know. I could do one in a day, easily pull it out of the car, rebuild it back in the car, and good to go. $300. And I was doing that, and that was my gift. My gift was mechanics. If I could take it apart, I could put it together. If it was broke, I could fix it. But it didn't mean anything. I wasn't worth shit. It didn't matter because I let this guy rape me repeatedly, and I didn't say anything. And I let my father beat the shit out of me, breaking bones, and I didn't say anything. And I let my father beat me up, and my mother cheer him on, hit him again, James. And I didn't say anything, and I didn't do anything to stop it. And in my mind's eye, I was too fucking weak to deserve anything. I didn't deserve a good life. I didn't deserve a good wife. I didn't deserve children. I didn't deserve any fucking thing because I was weak, and I didn't deserve a fucking thing on this planet. And I think the cloud, when I see someone else with joy, I think my agony is what makes me cry. And it's the agony that I don't fucking deserve any of this. I don't deserve your friendship. Everything is just a gift in time that I didn't earn, that I don't deserve because I'm too fucking weak to stand up for myself.
Is that where the tough guy comes in?
Yeah, because, you know, the tough guy is facade, right? I am convinced that I don't deserve any of the happy things that are in my life. That I don't deserve any of the happy things that may come later in my life. That I haven't earned them. That I didn't stand up for the basic principle of self-preservation. That I let the guy across the street repeatedly rape me. Then I let the detectives who told me they would treat me right, told me that they just wanted a little bit of help, that they just wanted to know what happened. I let them rape me too. And I didn't do a fucking thing about it.
How do you feel after the intake session?
It's going to be very, very difficult because I have to bring it back up. I have to relive it. And that's what she told me today. She said, you're going to have to confront this stuff. That was her word. She says, you have to confront this stuff. So I'm going to have to bring it up and I guess tack it to the wall and stare it in its face and say, you know, fuck you, you don't have power over me anymore, or whatever that takes. I don't know what I don't know the process. My whole life I've just been compartmentalizing it and just carrying it around. It's just always been on my back. And the only way to fix it is to confront it. It's not going to be pretty. The first time I explained it, it wasn't detailed enough. She asked me to explain it again. The second time, not detailed enough, explain it again. So I had to do that 4 or 5 times, and each time to get more explicit. So I have a feeling it's going to be very painful. It's going to be very explicit. You can't just powder coat it, I guess. It has to be raw. I don't know how I'm going to come out of it. So the meltdown was one of the meltdowns as an example is I'm just reduced to this weak motherfucker who can't stand up for himself, who can't function. I just sit there in a ball on the bed and just fucking cry like a 5-year-old. And the shaking and sometimes the puking, and I just can't stop. And it just
makes me feel like such a fucking bitch, man, that I can't control that. You know what I mean? I'm the guy, man. I'm the shot caller. I'm the motherfucker in charge. How you gonna sit on the bed like a little fucking bitch and cry? It goes on for, sometimes it'll go on for 3 fucking hours. I'm just sick. I mean, I don't even have any tears left and I'm still crying. My eyes are dry. And you can't rationalize it. I tell myself, you know, stop being a fucking bitch. You did it to yourself. Own it.
How did you cry in prison?
I would put my face down in the pillow so that no one could hear me. I would wait till the cells were closed late at night. I mean, some days I would be crying all fucking day and nobody knew it. Some days I was sick. I couldn't eat. I was trembling. I couldn't write. Some days I just couldn't function, but I did. I would just wait and watch the clock and just wait for the time to lock in when nobody could walk past my cell and nobody could see me. And then I would just bury my head and just cry as quietly as I possibly could. And just, sometimes I couldn't stop. So I just go get a bunch of heroin or something and just get so fucked up I didn't even know who I was anymore. Because if I didn't know who I was, then I didn't know I was in pain.
Thank you for tuning in again. Sorry, it wasn't a happy-go-lucky episode. We'll get there at some point.
I don't know, you know, P keeps telling you that, you know, we're going to do a happy episode, but I'm here to tell you that there's not much fucking happy coming out of me about prison, so...
Please come back next week. We're going to lighten it up, I swear. If we had a link, everything would be better, right?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I just, you know, I want to find out how to get more people listening because I want to share. So spread this to your friends. Tell them about us. Follow, subscribe,
Please.
Download, and like.
Good night. We love you.
Good night.
Wow. I thought we would just talk about visits and it would be fun and we would keep it light tonight.
Well, you always say that. I've always laughed because you say, you know, let's go in tonight and let's keep it light. Let's tell a joke. You know, a frog goes into a bar, or, you know, or something. But it never happens because we always come up with these triggers that fucking set me off,
Oh
right?
my God, there's no happy episode. Okay, Grasshopper walks into a bar.
What happened?
He says to the bartender, give me a drink, please. And the bartender says, sure, I'll give you a drink that's named after you. And the Grasshopper says, you have a drink named Steve?
Nice. That's great. Yeah.
All right. That's all I got.